Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Western Spirit. Today, we have with us for the second time one of my favorite guests so far, Abhijit Iyer-Mitra. He's a senior fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies in India, and he's someone who everything you want to know about what's happening in India, we should talk to Abhijit. Everyone should know, check him out wherever he is. So it's important for us to get to know him too, more than we did even the first time. So, Abhijit, it's great to finally speak with you again.
Thank you for having me on again, Ariel. It's always fun talking to you.
Likewise, Abhijit, we are uh, not too far away from the terrorist attack which brought the conflict with between India and Pakistan back to the forefront of the world stage. We sort of in the West sort of didn't remember that this was on a low fire over the years, and never really not no resolution really happened over the years. So, can you give us a little bit about how do you think the war or the incursion went from India's standpoint? I just read yesterday that the head of these Indian armed forces said to Reuters that you suffered a few air casualties where planes were down in the first day. He said they learned from it, from the what happened. They need to learn more. How does India internally look at what happened?
So generally, there's quite a bit of jubilation in India. I don't know if it reflects in the Western press or anything. Uh, that said, look, we generally have this thing that um, we measure what we achieved by the results over a long period of time. So, for example, if you remember in 2019, there was an attack on our soldiers, a suicide bombing, which killed about 40 of our soldiers in Pulwama. And in response to them, we had an air attack on Balakot. Now, that was very significant for several reasons. First of all, in South Asia, because um, we're still very third world. Ground forces are seen as less escalatory, and air is seen as much more escalatory, as opposed to say the West, where air attacks are seen as less escalatory and boots on the ground are seen as much more escalatory. Right?
Yes.
It's the exact reverse out here. So India going in for air attacks was a big departure from normal. The second was we hit Balakot. Now, Balakot is very significant because the belief always was that attacks in Kashmir should be responded to by attacks in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. That didn't happen. We hit inside Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which Afghanistan believes technically is Afghan territory illegally
Hmm.
occupied by the Pakistanis. And the Western press said, oh, nothing was really hit. And after a month of the attack, now tell me how stupid you have to be that you get taken for a tour a month after the attack and shown, oh, well, nothing. It was just open forest. Like, I mean, would you even accept a tour a month after the attack? A day or two, sure. A month, I think not. And nowhere near the GPS location of the attacks either. But anyway, even the GPS locations, there were three holes in that particular structure. Now, if you go by the Pakistani tour for diplomats, it was just open ground and crows died. If you go by the pictures that the Western press had but discounted, saying, well, nobody could have really died. Um, the problem with a lot of the Western press is those journos, unlike, say, Israelis, haven't done military service or anything like that.
Yes.
Now, the point of an attack isn't to blow up the building, it's to, have a lot of post entry explosive effects inside which kill a lot of people inside that particular building. Which is what happened. And you saw the results because what we were told after the Balakot attacks was this was sort of Harvard for terrorism. It was the master's class and just the pre industry intake.
Hmm.
So the general assessment was that we've wiped out a lot of their offensive terror capabilities for about 3 to 5 years. And it would take at least that long to train up a new cohort of jolly jihadis. Now, what ended up happening was that turned out to be accurate. So, for the last 5 years, we did not have a terror attack after that till 2024 November. Now, in 2024 November, there were some pilgrims going up to a pilgrimage site in Kashmir. Their bus was attacked by machine gun fire. It fell down the gorge. The driver, trying to protect his passengers from the machine guns, kind of fell into the gorge. 9 people died in all, but most of the bus was saved. We still don't do anything. Then the Pahalgam attack happened on the 26th of last month,
Hmm.
and there it was very specific, because what they did was they went around asking people to drop their pants to see if they were circumcised or not, and shot anybody who wasn't circumcised. They also asked, initially when the attack started, they started asking people for, are you Hindu or Muslim? If you said Hindu, shot on the spot, right? So it was a very carefully calculated, calibrated attack, which was meant to show, Kashmir is not back to normal. Now, we need to separate between an insurgency and terrorism. An insurgency is a state of continuous terrorism, whereas terrorism can happen literally anywhere. Now, the insurgency in Kashmir is well and truly over. I was there last month. We've been going, the number of tourists who go to Kashmir now is just insane. You can literally walk around. I remember, had you gone to Kashmir 10 years back, there would be checkposts every 200-300 meters, checking everywhere, long queues and things like that. All of that's just literally gone. We've actually demolished the conflict economy out there, which is not an insignificant achievement. So there was this need to kind of show that, and we suspect, again, we suspect that they need to demonstrate to China that they're still a worthwhile ally.
Mm.
Uh, because remember, the China Pakistan alliance is based on the fact that Pakistan can keep India off balance. China doesn't believe in allies per se, as you would understand in the West. They believe in free radicals. They'll use North Korea to bog down Japan and Korea. They'll use Laos, not in a kind of North Korea way, but they use Laos differently to, sow the seeds of discontent in ASEAN, and they used Pakistan to bog down India. Now, the agreement was they would keep two insurgencies boiling, the Punjab insurgency and the Kashmir insurgency. The Punjab insurgency ended in the late 1990s, and so the focus was on the Kashmir insurgency. Now, ever since the Kashmir insurgency has ended, you've seen that Pakistan does not get the kind of discounted terms and special treatment that they used to get once upon a time. They have to pay full price for the aircraft that they buy. They have to pay full price for the missiles that they buy. The Chinese are very upset that the Pakistanis didn't allow them to complete the China Pakistan economic corridor, etc., etc. So there was the need to sort of bolster a domestic population. There was a need to bolster Chinese confidence in their abilities to keep India off balance. And Asim Munir, who is the current Pakistan chief of army staff, currently field marshal. I've never seen a field marshal get promoted. I've never seen a general become a field marshal after failure. But I don't know if Israelis remember the Egyptians. After every defeat, they used to claim great moral victories and promote themselves to, grand
Yes.
admiral and uh, grandest of field marshals and God knows what not. Um, Similar kind of a mindset. So he's promoted himself to field marshal. There is a huge amount of opposition now to him within his corps commanders. It's the 11 corps commanders who actually control Pakistan in that sense. And unlike previous chiefs of army staff who were very cold, calculating people who used to keep religion away, they used religion, but they kept religion away. Asim Munir is the son of a muezzin. He and a fairly radical muezzin at that. So there is this belief in India that he is actually a true believer. He's not
Mm.
just lining his own pockets. He believes in this 1,000-year long ideological war where it's called the Ghazwa-e Hind, where the infidels of India need to be conquered and their idols need to be smashed and they need to be brought into the path of peace.
A little bit like here.
Mm.
It's a 1,000-year struggle. We need to kick the first. It's the Crusaders, the Christians, the Jews, the this, the that. We need to beat everyone,
Yeah.
or make them Muslims. It's
Yeah.
the that's the usual type of thing.
I mean, look at it. this way. I mean, we know there's no such thing as Palestine, right? It's a complete
Yes,
modern figment of imagination. I mean, even they didn't call themselves Palestinians till the 1960s. But and suddenly you repurpose the flag of the Arab revolt and become a Palestinian. I mean, tell me something. I mean, till 1967, they had the West Bank, they had
yes,
Gaza. Why didn't they declare a Palestinian state out there? What is this thing about? Oh, the 67 borders are sacrosanct. Well, the 67 borders were sacrosanct till 67. What were you doing till then? You know,
exactly.
so it's this is basically fascism wrapped up as anti-colonialism. And you're sitting there and thinking, dude, like the Jews have been there for like what, 3,000 years. Well, they've been there for longer, but they became Jew
Yes,
3,000
yes.
years back when they gave up, well, maybe 2,700 years back when Hezekiah got rid of all the other gods and said, you know, we're
Hmm.
just going to worship this one God. And we've been here for the last 5,000 years at least, as far as we know.
Yeah.
Who exactly is anti-colonial out here? Excuse me. So it's different geographies, same bullshit.
But wait, Abhijit, can I just ask one thing? That the double game that Pakistan plays with the West, where you even saw it with the way Trump, the president of the United States, talked about Pakistan. So in a way, it's like, yes, they're radical. They help harbored, for example, Bin Laden. And on the other hand, they keep on saying it's these radicals within the government. It's not the government itself. It's these radicals within the establishment, but not the establishment itself. For example, with the attacks that happened, the terrorist attack in Kashmir or in other places in India, they keep on saying these are people in Pakistan, but Pakistan is itself as an entity, as a country, is against this. Do the Indians, or first of all, is that true? Is it true that the Pakistanis, as a government, are against it, but like they let it slide, or are they actually initiating this?
Oh, they initiate it. And the clearest sign of it is how India retaliated on the 7th of May. We called up the Pakistanis and said, look, we're hitting terror camps. We're not even doing suppression of enemy air defense, which is probably where we lost the aircraft. Uh, if we did, I'm not going to confirm or deny anything. Uh, we called them up. We said we're hitting terror camps. You've got an off ramp. You can accept we're hitting terror camps and behave yourselves and not retaliate. We hit the terror camps. They chose to retaliate militarily. So, any nonsense that they may spew about, oh, these are radicals doing this, we gave them the off ramp. We gave them the choice. They literally had that choice to make. They chose to protect terrorists. Number one. Number two, this is, the Americans used to feel this perfidy a lot more as long as they were in Afghanistan. Because the standard response Pakistan always used to give was, bro, these are radical elements. We can't control them. You asked us to breed them for the Afghan jihad. We did. And now they're out of control. We've got no control over our own territory. We are actually the biggest victims of terrorism ourselves. And there was this very strange episode in Rawalpindi where my friend Francesca, the Italian journalist Francesca Marino, she writes for Limes, which is the Italian foreign policy journal. She was there in Rawalpindi where a cop saw that she was a white woman and literally got hold of her and made her cower behind a shop that had these metal boxes full of rice. Uh, and he told her there's a bomb that's going to go off in the mosque. A bomb did go off in the mosque about 30, 40 seconds later because it had all been planned with state collusion. A bomb going off, the state setting off a bomb in its own mosque, killing its own people. About 20, 30 people died in that. Not her, because a foreigner dying would lead to, all kinds of investigation to show that they're the victims of terror.
So it's all like a theater for them, where they play both sides.
It's theater, and the thing is, they don't know how to get out of the situation anymore. Every time you meet Pakistanis outside of Pakistan, I'm not that I've ever been to Pakistan, but anyway, uh, the standard response is yes, we do. We're knee deep in this crap. How do we get out of it?
Hmm.
Our debt situation now is that almost 60-70% of our budget is going to debt servicing. We've got no production happening anymore except footballs. They're the biggest manufacturer of
Yes.
footballs. If you have a FIFA standard football, then it is most probably made in Pakistan. And they're the biggest exporter of sex toys, apparently. Uh,
Is that true?
so, yeah, 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 yeah.
But there are very religious Muslim countries. So,
That
well, I
doesn't
don't know.
matter. They're not using it. They're sending it off to other people, you see. They're also the biggest consumers of gay porn on earth.
Yes?
Yes, the single biggest consumers of gay porn in the world are Pakistanis. You can check it up. It's a legit, it's an absolutely legit figure.
But if they're caught outside, someone sees them through the window, they get killed pretty much, right?
No, so
Could you be a
this
gay
is
person in Pakistan openly?
uh, so this is where we need to nuance things. Um, I've been to Afghanistan. I've not been to Pakistan, and I suspect Pakistani culture is very similar. You're looking at mixing two different things. There is ISIS Arab culture in Syria, and this is Turkic culture. It would be a grave mistake to mix the Muslim with the Turkic nomad culture. And the general thing out there is it's very accepted in Persian poetry. It's actually extolled in Persian poetry, in medieval Persian poetry. And for 400 years, India produced more Persian poetry than Persia did. So it's things that are greatly extolled in their entire canon of literature. Uh, Practiced even now, it's seen as very normal for boys to be boys. You just can't marry a man and be gay. But if you're bonking and keeping it like, well, not advertising it or doing it in public, but if you're bonking on the side, it's perfectly acceptable. Right. It's like the hammams of Damascus, for example. What you do in the hammam stays in the hammam. There's variations on a theme out here. I'm not going to say it's very you can't have pride parades like you do in Tel
Well,
Aviv.
exactly. But it's more nuanced. Yeah. Wait, so get back to where you are. So they don't have their economy is very bad. Their debt, so they can't really even put more money into the economy because they're in deep debt and just servicing the debt. And I guess the interest on the debt is destroying them internally. They have no help, like you said. The Chinese are less helpful than they were in the past. Obviously, India is not a good friend of theirs. Let's say so. They need something else, right? This is explain to us. Gives them meaning, maybe a little bit.
So they basically depended on this sort of mercenary culture to keep them afloat. Right. So if you remember, after 9/11 happened and the Americans decided to go into Afghanistan, Pakistan was the main conduit and the base for that particular operation. And what happened was within months of that, there was the attack on India's parliament, and India mobilized its entire army and put it on the border to threaten the Pakistanis. And it was basically testing the waters. They wanted to see how strong the American commitment to Pakistan was. And finally, America had to talk us down from going in for military action because attacking parliament is very serious. It's an attempt at leadership decapitation, which was not going to go unpunished. But anyway, we did not punish them for it. It it kind of fizzled out after a year of mobilization, where we caused them a lot of economic damage. At any rate, um, they keep playing America off against China, and they're doing that even now. They keep saying, if you don't help us out, we will have to go into the Chinese fold. The problem is that game isn't working anymore because the Americans have kind of had it with the Pakistanis and said, you know what, fine, go. And the Chinese, um, now, okay, the problem with Chinese public statements is that they're, a puzzle wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in the way Disraeli used to describe Russia. I forget the exact thing. uh, a mystery wrapped in a puzzle
In
wrapped
an
in a
enigma, no, in an
yeah,
enigma.
yeah, yeah. That was it. I mean, you know the quote. I mean, yeah. Um, the real Chinese commentary is in Chinese, is in Mandarin. And we've got people who read that, and the level of anger at Pakistan is enormous. The
Why?
Chinese simply aren't winning because of CPEC, the China Pakistan Economic Corridor. The Chinese, look, I mean, to be fair, Chinese economic corridors are debt traps. Uh, but that isn't why Pakistan said we don't want it. Pakistan's whole game was China, at least its altruistic English speaking self, as opposed to, you know this very well, right? The Palestinians always say
Yes,
brotherhood and peace in English. And in Arabic, they'll say, oh, kill the Jews, slit the Jews'
exactly.
throat, blood libel,
Yes.
Muslim martyr child, etc., blah, blah, bullshit.
With Arafat, it was really like that. He would say one thing in English, and then the next day he would say, like, Intifada, let's go,
There
sending the
was those
suicide
audio
bombers.
conversations. There's a literal lots of audio conversation. There was a whole documentary made about this. So it's a lot like that, right? So the Chinese said, look, you guys are going down. We need to save your economy. Let's focus on your economy. This is an opportunity for you to industrialize. We'll build a road all the way from China to Karachi port. Of course, it helps us because it helps us bypass the Straits of Malacca for the oil choke points, the oil and gas choke points. And you can transit oil and energy and whatever else directly to us. The Pakistani said, yay, wonderful. We can set up all these industries on the side, so on and so forth. Uh, Now, any calculation will tell you that it makes absolutely no sense sending oil or gas on a pipeline from Karachi to China, because oil and gas have to be pressurized and depressurized when you're going over the Karakoram Mountains. K2 is the second highest peak on earth after Everest, and you're looking at average. So when I come to Israel and people say let's go to Mount Hermon, I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for the mountain, I'm waiting for the mountain. What? This little piddly shit's a mountain? Heck, this doesn't even. I mean, the Surveyor General of India won't even. Yeah, I mean, the Surveyor General of India won't even put it on the map. Uh, so we're talking about mountains that are like 30,000 feet high, right? Um, and roads that have to go through, passes that are about anywhere between 18 to about 23,000 feet high. The kind of pressurization, depressurization, seismic shifts, and things like that you have to bargain for. Not to mention, it's permafrost throughout. So there's the heating of the gas, the cooling of the gas, things like that that happens out there, which is insane. But anyway, they sold the Pakistanis on it initially. The Pakistanis, as we've established, don't know economics, so they fell for it. Then what happened was, remember, what runs Pakistan is a nexus of the military, the landowners, and the so-called industrialists. They don't have any industry, but industrialists are basically landowners. And it's sort of, think of it as the patrician class in Rome that controlled everything. They controlled the land, they controlled the military officership, they controlled political power, because plebeians weren't allowed to run for office. Well, they were up to a point, and then there were the uh, gladiators, and certain professions weren't allowed to, caste system kind of thing. So you've literally got about 200,000 elites in Pakistan. Everything is chosen from them, including the officer corps. Now they decided, how do we make money off this? So for the elevated highway, where you needed, say, 10 meters by 10 meters of your land for a pillar to go up to the supporting pillar for the elevated highway, say it'll cost about $1,000 at most, because this is parched agricultural land, not really worth anything at best for marginal farming. Now, remember, when I say parched in Israel, and Israeli sees this as an opportunity. So there's this mindset we have to overcome, that there's an opportunity for fantastic agricultural growth. Here, there is no proper agriculture. It's just bring the water, pour it on, see if it grows. If it doesn't grow, move on. So $1,000 for that 10 meter by 10 meter. They wanted 70, $80,000. And the Chinese went on leaning onto the military, saying, look, these are your guys, these are your families. You need to tell them we're doing this for your own good. They did not budge. And that entire project has, for all effects and purposes, collapsed. There are the two ports, three ports, Gwadar, Ormara, and Karachi was anyway meant to be bypassed, but to an extent, Karachi. Gwadar and Ormara have been repeatedly attacked, and the Chinese suspect that these are collaborative attacks. They're not exactly rebel attacks. And the Chinese are very, very pissed off about this. And the Pakistanis, whenever we do track twos with them in some third country location, will tell us, yeah, we don't want the CPEC to go through. It'll just add to our debt trap. So clearly, they kind of figured out what happened. They were inflating prices. They went collaborating with the Chinese. The Chinese have spent a lot of money and they're not getting returns on investment. They've kind of, I won't say they've given up on Pakistan, but there is a huge amount of pressure on Pakistan to prove its worth as a free radical.
So they're playing both sides, and it's not working because both sides can't stand them anymore, basically. So, but I wanted to ask you another thing, which pertains to the conflict, but also to our conflict here. So one of the things that we've been reading here, and I looked it up today before speaking to you, is Turkey's involvement. So we don't really like Turkey anymore. We used to be friends with them. This guy, the current, he says he's not going to run anymore. So it's going to be one of the longest leaderships in, I guess, democracy. I don't know if they're democracy anymore, but whatever they are is history. Maybe even just in terms of I think he's one of the most, except for our leader, one of the most oldest in terms of number of years served, Erdogan. And India is sanctioning Turkey on different things now because just explained to us a lot of the weapons that Pakistan was using came from India. I think a lot of their intelligence also. There was definitely collaboration between the Turks and the Indians and the Pakistani, sorry, to down for to shoot at Israeli Indian jets. We're not going to confirm or deny here, but my point is that a lot of it was the Indians understand that Turkey was helping the Pakistanis really be good at, I guess, not good, but at least better than they should have been. Let's say, let's put it that way.
This episode is brought to you by Ayn Rand Center Israel. We meet every alternate Friday to study and discuss the philosophy of Ayn Rand, author of The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. The topics range from ethics to politics, reason versus faith, aesthetics, psychology, and much, much more. This is the only place in Israel where Ayn Rand's unique philosophy is accessible to you, and you're welcome to come learn all about it. It's a great opportunity to learn and meet really interesting people. Attendance is free, and first-timers get a free book. We meet every alternate Friday at the WeWork in Sarona Market, and we like to keep the intellectual discussion going afterwards with some great food and drinks. Click the link for more info on Ayn Rand Center Israel.
So, the Turkish supplied weapon systems failed spectacularly in India because, the Turks expected a repeat of what they saw in Ukraine and Azerbaijan, where, the Azeris used these Turkish drones to devastating effect and basically retake Nagorno-Karabakh, Artsakh. Let's call it Artsakh. I prefer the Armenian anyway. And they also used the Bayraktar drones in Ukraine to great acclaim initially, till the Russians learned how to overcome them. But you look at what happened in India, not one single Turkish drone managed to hit its target. Not one. Every single 100% success rate. The only thing they managed to hit was a house, well, not even a house, a compound somewhere here or there, because when they were shot, they lost their not trajectory, but their path and fell on top of assorted areas here and there. They didn't manage to knock out a single military asset. They didn't manage to enter a single military zone. 100% success rate, completely with this. It's called TechForge. TechForge is the company in uh, Hyderabad that produces these drone interceptors, and their theirs is a value proposition. Even a Shahed drone costs about 20, 30. A Shahed type drone. Iranians hate the Pakistanis, so it's they're not supplying them with drones. Cost about $20,000, $30,000. Now these interceptors are literally about 10,000 rupees, which is 150, $200 maximum. So you're literally $200 to shoot down a $30,000 drone is a very good economic proposition. We managed to shoot them all down. On the first day, we may have had some losses, which I again refuse to confirm or deny. Uh, but from the second day onwards, we recovered spectacularly. I think the biggest story of the India Pakistan war of 2026 is the
25,
drone
no?
defense, is the Indian drone defense.
Wait, Abhijit, we're in 2025. Don't make me age more faster than I am. 2025.
2025, the India Pakistan war of 2025 is the Indian drone defense. The second thing that happened is, focusing just on Turkey. Turkey has had a very long standing relationship with Pakistan. So, during our independence movement, after the humiliation of the Ottoman Empire after the First World War, when uh, Kamal Ataturk, the British did not get rid of the Caliph. It was Kamal Ataturk who got rid of the Caliph. There was Gandhi started off this movement in India called the Khilafat movement. And the Khilafat movement was spearheaded by the Ali brothers. Now, the descendants of the Ali brothers actually live in Jerusalem. One of the Ali brothers, the Indian hospice in Jerusalem, when you enter from the Lion Gate, uh, the lady who runs the Indian hospice is the great, 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 great granddaughter of the two Ali brothers who started this. Now, notice the difference in perception. Turkey wants to get rid of the Ottomans, deposes the Caliph. In India, it is sold as an anti colonial thing. It's not actually Kamal Ataturk getting rid of them, it is the British getting rid of the Caliph. So you start a movement against the British in India for Indian independence, hijacking a Muslim cause of the most regressive and radical Muslims humanly possible, called the Khilafat movement. And it was in protest against the Khilafat movement of Gandhi radicalizing already radical Muslims and bringing religion into politics that Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, left the Congress. And he left saying that this was, quite rightly, that this was an invitation to anarchy, this was an invitation to radicalism, this was going to poison India's secular politics and make it religious. It was a pathway for all kinds of loonies to enter, religious loonies to enter politics. And he went off to London. But the way the Turks are taught about this movement in history was this was an anti British, anti colonial movement. Play on words. Khilaf is against. So it wasn't called the Khalifat movement, it was called the Khilafat movement, opposition to movement. See? And it was the same Jinnah who comes back 10 years later and says, oh no, Muslims in India need a homeland, and he starts the radicalization. So, very significant events that have been interpreted in Turkey in a very different way. And they genuinely believe that Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who opposed the Khilafat movement, is the one that advocated for Turkey after the First World War. Now, in 1950 or 51 or 52, I forget, Sir Olaf Caro writes his books, The Wells of Power, the book Wells of Power. And in that, he claims that there are three countries that are going to oppose the USSR, that are the frontline states against the USSR. Turkey, Iran, Pakistan. Now, Pakistan doesn't have a border with the USSR, so I don't know where he got Pakistan in that. It should have been Afghanistan, but anyway. And they decided, and this was sort of post facto rationalization of CENTO, and CENTO, basically Central Treaty Organization, which was meant to be the Middle Eastern NATO. And these three countries started collaborating a lot. So this sort of fake Turkish narrative of Pakistan helping them during the 1920s in their war of independence and things like that, it's created a sort of, it got crystallized in the 1950s with CENTO. Iran, of course, popped out in 1979 when the Islamic Revolution happened. But Turkey and Pakistan continued their collaboration. And what happens with Pakistan now is, well, Turkey's gone way ahead in terms of technology and human development. Pakistan has gone way behind. So that's the history of their collaboration. But Erdogan is particularly curious. When Erdogan first came, he tried a lot of outreach with India. And he said, you invest in us and we'll just get rid of these guys. That was when there was this whole Davtolu doctrine. You remember that the Davtolu doctrine of
His
no,
foreign secretary, yeah, at the time.
yeah, uh, no conflict in the region. The Mediterranean should be a zone of peace. We're going to advocate for peace throughout, etc., etc. Which then became his own party members, AKP party members, were posting these maps of the Ottoman Empire reborn, which also collapsed. Then they wanted the new Ottoman Empire, which would span the entire Turkic region, right up to Kazakhstan and possibly the Uyghur regions of China, Xinjiang province. That also collapsed because of Turkish heavy handedness. And now there is the fourth iteration, which is the Turkic People's Conference, to which Hungary is a special invitee. But it's apparently Turkey has learnt. But this is one more of those things where Erdogan ends up making so many enemies, he needs to find new friends. Now, what is second phase of this is the Pakistani. I mean, Pakistanis, if you look at them culturally, they're Muslim Indians, essentially, right?
Ethnically Indian, religiously Muslim.
But they cannot get over the fact that they're Indians. They want to show that they are not Indians. I mean, they're blacker than I am, and they will claim, oh, my ancestors were Turks invading from Turkey. That's the current story, by the way. We've seen three iterations of this. In the 40s, 50s, 60s, and early 70s, till 79, because Iran was the emerging superpower. People seem to forget that Iran was richer than Taiwan. It was richer than South Korea in those days. It was more industrial than South Korea and Taiwan in those days. They all wanted to be Iranian. All these families would concoct, family trees about how they actually came to Pakistan under Shah Abbas during the Safvid dynasty, and they were highly refined courtiers of the Safvid capital in Isfahan and things like that, so on and so forth. Which is why the first ambassador, the first Pakistani ambassador to the United States, is M.A. Isfahani, literally from Isfahan. His daughter, Farhanaz Isfahani, is a member of parliament right now. And notice the names also: Farah Naz, the glory of Farah Isfahani, from Isfahan. Nothing Pakistani about it, you see. So there was
Is
all
that
this.
real, or is that because they want? Like my wife's family is actually from Isfahan, but they're not welcome there anymore. But my
Yeah. Uh, no, these are all concocted stories.
they're not real. They changed their names and everything.
Right. So, for the longest time, the Russian czars used to claim descent when racism hadn't set in. They used to claim descent from the Khans of Tatarstan and things like that, because there were actually Tatar Kalmyk Mongol brides of Russian noble families for quite some time. I mean, you remember Boris Yeltsin, he had slightly Oriental features as well. You can't separate it from the Russian DNA. So, for the longest time, the Tsar used to claim to be descended from some one line of Genghis Khan and things like that, right? Not in, I mean, not in the 1800s and 1900s where it was strictly verboten. Oh my God, Übermensch, Untermensch kind of categorization comes in. But here they concoct these family stories. It's like, people who claim to be descendants of the Prophet Muhammad today. Do you actually believe that they're descendants?
Probably not.
Exactly. So these are all concoctions. These are modern day concoctions. And so till 79, they were Iranians. They were Persians, they used to call themselves. After 79, especially in the mid 80s, when the Shia Sunni split became particularly pronounced. And remember, Pakistan is a lunatic Sunni state, but its founder, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, was a Shia. In fact, his particular community didn't even come under Muslim personal law in India. The way Israel has its personal laws. The Druze personal laws are dictated by the Druze clergy. It's religious Jews that have the monopoly on dictating Jewish religious laws and things like that. In those days, we followed the exact same British system. And they Jinnah's community came under Hindu personal law. They did not come under Muslim personal law. So it's one of those things where he had to prove himself to be more Muslim than the Muslim, even though he used to eat pork sandwiches. He literally used to eat ham sandwiches. He loved, his favorite food was ham, and it wasn't turkey ham like you get in Israel. It was pork ham. He used to eat pork ham sandwiches. Um, so in the 80s, they suddenly decided to become Arabs. They started wearing keffiyas and walking around. Even the in Urdu, the number plates of cars, because there is no P. We discussed this. Remember, there is no Palestine in Arabic. There is, it's Al Filistin. Uh, they made it Al Pakistan. You know the famous cemetery in Mecca, the Jannat al Baqi, the uh, what, the playground of the those who are left. What is left? So Sparistan, essentially Al Pakistan. They couldn't even make it Al Pakistan. And then the Arabs started treating them like dirt, because these days if you go to Dubai, we all look the same, right? Bangladeshis, Indians, and Pakistanis. So they'll stop you if you're an Indian. If you're a white guy, you'll get through immediately. If you're an Indian, you'll get stopped. If you flash an Indian card, oh, sir, welcome. If you're a Pakistani or Bangladeshi, get out. We don't want to see you out here, right? They're openly, Indians are treated like real well in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and places like that. Pakistanis and Bangladeshis get treated like dirt. And they're unapologetic about it because they feel that the highest crime is by Pakistanis and Bangladeshis. Why should Indians be punished for Pakistani Bangladeshi crimes? So they start getting treated like dirt by the Arabs. So they've decided since 2010 at least that they're now Turks. Now, Google a Turk, dude. Like, do a Google image search of a Turk. Proper Turks, the original Turks who come from what is today essentially the Manchurian border, from the Far East, almost as far east as Japan, right? The Manchu Mongols, Turks were kind of interchangeable in a sense. There were Turkic tribes that turned Mongol and Mongol tribes that turned Turkic. There is not one Pakistani, I bet you, who, yeah, not one.
But
Not one.
also the skin color you mentioned, and well, there's a lot of things that would not make them Turks. Let's put it that way.
But now they've decided. So this is their chronic identity complex, which Erdogan loves. It fits in with this whole scheme of the Neo-Ottoman Empire. Uh, and so it continues. And this is where yours truly takes a great amount of pride. I wiped off 33% of Chalebi's market value in one day. Me personally. Chalebi is the Turkish air ground services company. And I went on TV during this entire process and said, Chalebi is part owned by Sumaya Erdogan through Shell Holdings. You can't, of course, Sumaya Erdogan is Erdogan's daughter. You can't really pinpoint it, but she owns parts of it. She's married to Seljuk Bayraktar, who owns Bayraktar drones, which are being used to kill Indians at the moment. The next day, the government announced that all of Chelebi's ground handling contracts had been taken away. All of, yeah, India accounts for 33% of Chelebi's market share. It just collapsed on the Istanbul Stock Exchange. They served me a legal notice. They're apparently going to take legal action against me, and my response to them, well, is a very large middle finger. Let them try. But we can't have enemy entities selling products to an enemy country, then operating. And airports are very sensitive installations. If you look at the Chelebi terminal in Delhi airport, it overlooks the VIP terminal, where our jamming aircraft are stationed, where our prime minister's transport aircraft are stationed. It's literally an electronic intelligence listening outpost. That's been shut down. They've been kicked out.
Hmm. But also, can I just, what is India saying to the Turks? So I heard there was, are you really contemplating, for example, is India, your country, contemplating cutting diplomatic ties with them because they're supplying weapons that, even if they didn't work this time, theoretically, at some point could kill. You said they fell in different places, so they did breach sovereignty of India for sure. Is there more than just the economic stuff? Is there like even a diplomatic punishment that India's looking to do?
So it's gradual and it's going to be graded. We kicked Jalebi out. Air India has cancelled its maintenance contracts with the Turks just yesterday. Uh, Indigo, which is India's biggest airline, is going to be cancelling. They just asked for leave till the summer season, the summer tourist rush is over. And sometime in about August, September, they're going to be cancelling their code share with Turkish Airlines. That's about 300,000 Indian tourists going there every year, which is going to get cancelled. By the end of the year, we'll most probably be cancelling Turkish Airlines' flights to Delhi.
Wow, and that's a big chunk of their money, right?
That's a
India's a big
huge chunk
country.
of their money. They depend a lot on India for the transit market. They were competing with Emirates and Etihad and Qatar Airways for the transit market.
Do you think they will learn from this? That next time something like, because this is going to happen again at some point. Do you think that they will? Do you think they're going to that they is this going to happen again where Turkey is going to help Pakistan supply it with weapons, even if they're bad or even whatever? It's still not a good thing. Um, you know.
Look, you know, Israelis learn from their mistakes. I won't extrapolate Israeli self-correction onto everybody else. Uh, when Israelis fail at something, they learn immediately and see to it that I mean, you make all new mistakes,
Yes, we're good
but
at making mistakes.
the same mistakes don't get repeated. Turks aren't necessarily like that. You've seen how the Russians within 6 months managed to counter the Bayraktars in Ukraine. They've not developed a counter to that again. You've not seen the Bayraktars take center stage again after that. It's also a question of ideology. Are they ideologically motivated or are they success motivated? Because, the heaviest expenditure on the Holocaust was towards the dying days of the Nazi regime, when they knew Berlin was going to fall and all their efforts were on killing Jews. So, see, that wasn't a cost calculus, it was an ideological calculus. Uh, so again, there's two things. Don't extrapolate Israeli innovativeness onto the Turks. And second, I suspect it's ideological.
Yes. Abhijit, lastly, let's talk about Israel in this and what you think. So, first of all, just so we understand, did Israel have anything to do in terms of weapon systems that we sold you guys? Was there any behind the scenes stuff that Israel helped you think? Is there anything? I know we're a small country but we're talking to the Israeli audience also. So, was there anything that Israel helped you guys with?
First, there was a huge amount of diplomatic support. Um, the Israelis were expecting us to ask for a lot of emergency equipment. And your embassy here was calling me up and saying, why haven't the requests for emergency equipment come? And I've said, listen, guys, the last time we sent you the SOS was in 1999, when we just recovered from an economic crisis. India of 2025 is not India of 1999. We've built up enough stocks and stores of even of Israeli weapons, of spice bombs and things like that, Popeyes and spice bombs, that we don't need to keep calling you. I mean, you do your own calculation. You've sold us what, about 6,000 spice kits so far. We don't have to call you up and ask for more right now. Maybe in a month's time, if this goes on for a month, maybe 2 months, we'll have to ask you. But till then, no. Uh, the most important thing we got from Israel at that point was the public support, because everybody else wanted to just wash their hands off of it. But both Netanyahu and the foreign minister were very, very vocal in their support. So that was much appreciated out here. And again, I'm not going to confirm losses or gains in this thing, except we put out a good deal of satellite imagery. The destruction we caused in Pakistan was enormous. Now, being an Israeli, you know this. There is no gain without pain. Will you lose assets in the process? Of course you will. Israeli soldiers have died in the last 2 years of campaigning.
Well,
That doesn't
today
mean we
three
stop.
more soldiers died.
More
So
soldiers
yeah.
died. Uh, uh, and for all the people claiming that Israel's a racist country, one of those three soldiers was an African Jew,
Yes, an Ethiopian
so
Jew.
an Ethiopian Jew, and losses are part of the game. The thing is, we learned from them, and they were not repeated. The mistakes were
Hmm.
not repeated.
Yes,
But you look at all the public demonstrations we've done of our hits. The most important hit was this air base called Noor Khan. In Jacobabad, we've hit a hangar which we know was an F 16 hangar, and it was housing former Jordanian Air Force F 16s, which had been sold to Pakistan. Now, we have no battle damage confirmation that they were in there. The Air Force is telling us there were at least three F 16s in there at the time. Again, I can't confirm. So, three Pakistani F 16s possibly taken out there. There was one in Bholari Air Base in the south, which was their Saab AVAX hangar. And that was apparently a time sensitive hit, which did take down the AVAX. We still don't know. Uh, the most important was Noor Khan, because Noor Khan is the nuclear command center. And we hit the two modules that were being used for nuclear commands to be relayed, as well as the operations room. Now, remember, an aircraft can be replaced in a year, year and a half. Even an F 16, especially an F 16, given the production volumes, it can be replaced in maybe even 6 to 9 months. Human beings, especially at that top level of clearance, nuclear security clearance, would have
exactly.
taken 7 to 8 years just of training, not to mention 10 years of security vetting for them to be there. When you kill off 40, 50 people in a nuclear command bunker, the loss of capacity is huge.
Hmm.
That is why they sent out the SOS to America, and that is why America got involved in it.
Why? Because America was scared that it would actually get to a nuclear situation.
Literally, because what we did was imagine that. Uh, so Pakistan doesn't have a briefcase with a button that follows Trump everywhere, right?
Yes.
This was their equivalent of the briefcase with the button. So
Mm.
what we did in Noor Khan Air Base was effectively shooting the briefcase from Trump's hands. That's a very significant nuclear alert.
So, was there a fear that they would get like use someone that wasn't there, that didn't die, that to actually use nuclear weapons on India?
They started nuclear blackmail. They told the Americans, "Look, dude, they've gotten this, and now we have to mobilize our nuclear weapons and things like that."
Hmm.
And the moment the Americans hear the nuclear word, they start panicking. And that is why, when the prime minister came out on the 10th and made his speech saying, "Yes, we are going in for a ceasefire," he made it very clear. He made two things very clear. Well, he made several things very clear, but the two things that were most prominent: A, nuclear blackmail will not work anymore. That
Hmm.
wasn't a message to the Pakistanis, that was a message to the Trump administration saying, this time, yes. The next time, if they use nuclear threats, that's on you. It's not on us. You deal with them. They're your friends. Right? The second thing he made very clear is we no longer need proof that terrorists who hit in India come from Pakistan. If we find proof that these terrorists are from a group that operates in Pakistan, that itself is enough for us to come after you again. The problem now is that, in terms of narrative, because Pakistan has not been able to provide any visual evidence of its claims, but India has provided all the visual evidence of its claims.
Hmm.
And like morons, the Pakistanis have in fact released more evidence of our hits, which we did not even claim. The tide has swung so far against them that you're seeing panic in the Pakistan military leadership. This promotion to field marshal, this need, they're calling up the Americans, the Australians, the Brits, the Germans, the Dutch, and saying, we need to send military delegations to you right now. And you know how it's being sold back home? It's being sold as our victory against India is so great that they're calling our delegations there to brief them about it.
As usual,
As
it's like the
usual,
same
as
type of
usual.
mindset where you lose and you use your loss to promote yourself within your own community that only reads propaganda and sees basically what you're willing to show them.
And you should know this better
Yeah.
than us, because I think the Israeli public is much more informed of the kind of conspiracy theories that pass off in Jordan, Syria, and places like that as
Yes.
real policy. uh, it's chronic in Pakistan.
Hmm.
It's chronic.
But it's also because the population is very uninformed, probably illiterate, a lot of it, not
to,
doesn't
to,
know to
to
read
be
outside
fair
sources, so they have no idea.
to be fair, Jordanians and Syrians, every time I've been in Syria and Jordan, are some of the most refined people I have met.
Hmm.
On the other hand, Pakistanis, and to be fair, it's a particularly low strata of Pakistanis that I've met in Dubai as construction workers and things, are the filthiest, crudest people you'll ever come across. Complete difference from their elites. Their elites are extremely refined. Their Pakistani, well, elites everywhere are very refined. But I've never come across a people so completely in denial of facts or
Reality.
reality.
Yeah.
But that's the way they are. And I think India has made it very clear this time. The problem is that the lack of credibility that the Pakistan military has in Pakistan right now, owing to this satellite imagery, is it is almost inevitable to save their own position. They are going to carry out another big terror strike in India. I expect there to be a big terror strike in India within the next 6 to 8 months.
6 to 8 months.
Yeah,
And are the Indians, the security apparatus, agree with you?
it seems to be a common assessment.
Uh-huh. Wow.
So they're all on high alert, which is why we have not stopped the civil mock drills for air raid. Uh, they're still continuing right now. The prime minister is very clear. It's just a pause in the operation. It's not a stopping of the operation.
Hmm.
Restart at any time, precisely because we're expecting another terror strike. The problem with terrorism is you can stop it 1,000 times. It just needs to succeed once to be spectacular. There's no way you're going to stop terror strikes completely. It's
Yes, I
it's it's a
agree.
possibility.
And Abhijit, I just wanted to end off by saying that we spoke last time about why Indians in general feel sort of relation with a little bit about what's happening here. And then we're speaking the second time after you went through a terrorist attack by Islamic extremists. And after the US, we had this thing with now this Saturday with the Islamic extremists there. So it's a worldwide phenomenon.
Mm.
And the Indian people have gone through this over and over and over. And I think that it's a little bit, we spoke about it last time, so I'll just say that we are like really on the front lines here with these crazies, but part of India is also on the front lines with the crazies.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of cycle where also gets Indians who aren't Western, which is a good thing in this situation, very good. We spoke about that last time too. So it makes them feel understand what we're going through here, and it makes it a lot easier to talk to you because you get it. And a lot of people in the West forgot what we're fighting for and what it means to fight with these lunatics. So I think in
So,
that way,
just a
yeah,
general message to your Israeli audience. If you go to America or Europe these days, you're quite likely to face anti Semitism. But if you
exactly.
come to India these days, you'll probably get a good handshake and a free cup of tea or something like that.
Yes. So everyone go to India.
Yeah.
Watch
Not
where you're
to
going.
inform.
Don't go to the I guess would it be safe to go to where the terrorist attack happened now, or you
Yes,
said there's a lot of
actually, it's
tourism there?
actually safer now because there's a lot more security now.
Uh-huh.
It's
So go
not
wherever you want.
go
But
wherever you want.
so go to India, especially if you're Jewish. I agree. I grew up in the US, and my father tells me he's scared. It's dangerous to be Jewish now. We had an attack now where a guy firebombed a Jewish event for the hostages. Last week, two Israeli diplomats were killed a week before he was supposed to propose to her. One of them was actually Christian, but I don't think he knew that. And the fact that these people are getting support is even worse. So you always have the rando crazy person, but these people are actually getting support online. Like, yeah, do it. It's very good.
Yeah,
It's part of the Free
insane.
Palestine. Yeah. So that's what's even more scary to me. You always have the occasional crazy person, but the fact that these crazy people are getting, I think, a lot of support. Not obviously not majority or whatever, but even a little bit is scary. And so, yeah, that's where I find it dangerous.
But you know what
Abhijit,
I find truly scary is that people who I've seen on Twitter, who are normally very, very pro Israel, say on the right of the spectrum, the left, of course, are
yeah,
loonies when it comes to Israel, unfortunately. There's nothing you can do there.
just about Israel, about a lot of things, they're loonies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But people on the right who should really know better,
yes,
starting to equivocate between Israel and terror.
yes,
And I find that really disturbing
I agree.
because how can you be right wing if you don't have your moral compass on these things? You cannot equate a state with terrorism, full stop. And you can't hold individuals, even if you disagree with the action of Israel, you can't hold individuals responsible for it. You can't hold a whole community responsible for it. You certainly can't be supporting throwing Molotov cocktails at old ladies and shooting down
Exactly.
diplomats.
I agree.
But they are.
Abhijit,
I mean, silence is acquiescence.
100%. And as we said before, go to India because everywhere else seems to be dangerous nowadays. Uh, it's we saw Paris, by the way, with these protests after the Paris Saint Germain game. It's not specifically directed at Jews, but it's a lot of these people are radical Islamists and crazy.
I think
Um,
what the history of Europe teaches us is that you don't need an excuse to kill a Jew.
exactly,
A well might run out of water, and it's automatically the Jew that's going to get targeted for it.
100%. My family's Holocaust. My grandfather and grandmother were the only survivors, pretty much, of their entire family that was wiped out. So we understand it on my flesh, so to speak. So, Abhijit, it was a pleasure talking to you. We could have gone on for another hour. I
Good on.
think the main gist of this talk is that you Indians are proud of what you guys did in this war. You expect the war to go on at some point when there will be another attempt to attack India from inside Pakistan or by people who are supported by Pakistan. And that, and the third thing, which I think is the more togetherness between you guys and us, is that we both are fighting the same enemy ideologically. And I fully pray that we both win. So thank you so much for being with us. It was a pleasure, and we'll see you next time.
Inshallah, we shall all win and we shall celebrate together.
Amen.
I mean,